Hi, everybody. Welcome to Fearless with Mary. I am your host, Mary Tibbetts, and I am so excited that you are here with me today. In this week's episode, we are diving into what separates a successful leader from a struggling leader. And let me tell you, I have been there. So grab a cup of coffee, get comfortable, and let's dive in. Hi, everybody. I'm really excited about this topic because I have been a very successful leader and I have been a struggling leader. And I feel like most people in business have been both as well. So I have all of my notes that I've made. We're going to go through everything. It's going to be so good. And I hope that by the end of it, you have some insight on how to be a more successful leader. So let's dive in. So I'm going to give you the key tips for becoming a decisive leader. So the number one leadership skill when it comes to being a successful leader is to be decisive. So what I mean by this is a successful leader knows how to make decisions and commit to them without overthinking, second guessing, waiting for the perfect moment, all of that good stuff. A struggling leader, on the other hand, hesitates, looks for constant validation, which as a human being, that is very hard because I feel like as humans, we look for validation. So that's something that as a business owner, you need to try very hard to get over. They also let fear of failure to keep them stuck in limbo. Because at the end of the day, success is built on bold, decisive moves. And we know this, bold, decisive actions. Anybody, like, if you look at Steven Spielberg, oh my goodness, he's literally one of the most famous filmmakers of all time. And he pretended to work at Universal Studios for 3 months and then walked into the office and pitched the CEO or the president or whomever it was, I can't even remember, pitched him his college film idea, and then he ended up getting hired, and boom, now it's Steven Spielberg. Everybody knows who he is. So he was bold, he knew what he needed to do, and he made that decisive decision. And I feel like sometimes in business, we are too scared to be bold and decisive because from experience, it was very bold of me to quit my everything, open up a flower shop, and I didn't even know how to do flowers at that point. And then by the end of it, I've managed to have a studio in my basement that I get to do large weddings out of. So I transitioned into something else, still in the same industry, but that was bold. That was a really bold, decisive decision that I made. That being said, along the way, I did look for validation from other people. I would, message other owners of shops and be like, oh, like, how did that look? And this, that. And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter because I'm looking for validation from people and other business owners that really don't have my best interest in mind because they want to get ahead. So you have to validate it for yourself. You have to know that what you're doing is right for you. It serves you. It's serving your purpose in your life. So let's dive into that. 5 key tips for becoming a decisive leader. Number 1, stop waiting for permission. This is the number one. We all know what this means. A strong leader doesn't sit around hoping someone else will make the tough call for them. You have to trust yourself, stop overanalyzing, and start moving. If it turns out to be the wrong decision, pivot, adjust, and move forward. So this is not even just in business. I feel like this is in life. You need to stop waiting for permission from people to do what you want to do. At the end of the day, you need to care for yourself more than you care for anybody else. And I mean that from a place of love, because don't get me wrong, I care about my children more than anything. I would do anything for them. They are my number one, my ride or die. I gave birth to them. I gave them life. They are, they're my children. My husband, same thing. I love him to death. Like, he's my ride or die. So, that being said, I can't wait for any of them to give me permission in what I want to do for myself, for my business, for my life, for my health, you name it. I cannot ask for permission from them. I need to take control of the situation and figure out what works best for me in all aspects of my life. So, becoming a successful leader 100% is stop waiting for permission. Stop waiting for permission from your friends, your family, other people in the same industry, coworkers, your boss, all of that. Like, obviously you're not going to go in and say to your boss, well, I'm doing this anyway, because then you're going to get fired. But you need to position yourself to be able to move forward and do things in your life that make you happy without having to get validated and ask permission to do it. I hope that's making sense to you, because, we all do it. We all ask for permission. Like, even when I got diagnosed with MS, I will never forget this. Even when I got diagnosed, I remember having the conversation with my husband, and I was saying to him, well, what do you think? Do you think I should sell the shop? Well, at the end of the day, it's not up to him. He wasn't the one running it. He wasn't the one that got sick. He wasn't the one, not sick. I'm not sick. He wasn't the one that got diagnosed with a autoimmune disease. He's not the one who has to, take a nap sometimes. So, but at the end of the day, it was up to me to make that decision. But I remember asking for the validation on it. And don't get me wrong, I still ask for validation all the time. I ask for validation when it comes to, do you think I'm doing the right thing by doing the podcast and speaking and doing coaching for businesses and for personal lives and stuff? And I know when I sit with myself and I have the hard, long conversations with myself, yes, I am doing the right thing. So why do I have to get validated by other people for it? It really doesn't make any sense. So that is number one. Stop waiting for permission. Do the bold things. Do the cool things. Pivot, adjust, and move forward. Okay, number two. Number two is trust your gut. And so what I mean by that is, if it is not 100%, hell yeah, I want to do this, or 100%, this is a good idea, or even if it's bad, don't get me wrong, sometimes it backfires and it's a bad idea. But at that moment in time, if your gut is telling you, oh, I don't know if I want to do this, then don't do it. 100% don't do it, because that's when regret sets in. I have a rule. It's the 24-hour rule. If I'm like, I don't know. I even do this when I go shopping, and I know it's a good analogy, actually. So if I go shopping and there's something I'm not 100% on, I'm just going to use an expensive jacket or something, I won't buy it. I will wait 24 hours, and then by the end of the 24 hours, if I want it, then I will go and buy it. But if I'm like, I still don't really know, or that's really expensive, I don't really want to pay that because I'm only going to wear it, in the spring or whatever it is, that's my answer. I'm not going to do that. I'm not telling you to implement the 24-hour rule. That's what works for me. It's a great strategy. So number 2, trust your gut, but back it with action. What I mean by that is intuition is great, but without action, it's useless. If you feel strongly about something, lean into it. Don't waste energy wondering what if. Test it, try it, and get real feedback from experience instead of sitting in indecision. How many times have you been sitting there and you're like, okay, well, what if I was to start a side hustle? What if I was to start a side hustle and see where it goes? A lot of people have this thought in their head, but they don't act on it. And then 10 years from now, they're like, oh, I wonder what would have happened if I did that. Well, I'm going to tell you, if you started that side hustle, it would have went one of 2 ways. 1, you would have been really successful, or 2, you wouldn't have been. But it's all the work that you put in to make it a success. Some mornings I wake up and I'm like, oh, this is really hard. Like this is a hard industry for me to pivot into. What the hell was I thinking? But I also know that I'm trusting my gut. I know that I am going to be successful in it because I'm giving it my everything. I'm doing the steps that I need to do. I'm talking to the people I need to be talking to. I'm aligning myself with what I want in my life, and I'm taking action. So instead of sitting in indecision, I made the decision, I'm moving forward. I'm going to make it successful because I decided I'm going to make it successful. So number 2, trust your gut. Okay, let's move on to number 3. Number 3 is get comfortable with imperfect decisions. This is a hard one for anybody who needs everything to be perfect, because I promise you, perfect never comes. Perfect never, ever, ever comes. No decision will ever be 100% perfect. Successful leaders make the best call from the information they have, then adapt. Struggling leaders hesitate because they're afraid of getting it wrong, but not deciding is still a decision and is usually the worst one. This one could actually be a whole podcast all on itself, a whole entire episode on itself. I was listening to a book, and I believe it was Be Your Future Self Now, I believe, by Ben Hardy, or it was, I think it was Be Your Future Self Now. And it was explaining how he had a blog, and he would put a blog out every single day. And now he's a writer, he has books, he's famous, he's amazing. But when he started it, he was nervous about putting it out because he didn't feel like it was perfect. But then he made the decision that it didn't matter, it had to go every single day. And even though he didn't feel that it was perfect, doesn't mean that it isn't perfect. What I mean by that, and I'm going to actually use events, is the best one that I can think of to use. When you're planning an event, okay, whether it be your child's birthday party, your wedding, your parents' 50th wedding anniversary, a conference, anything like that, okay? The only person that's actually going to know what didn't happen is you, because you're the one that planned it. Everybody who's in attendance thinks that that's actually how it's supposed to be going. So to them, it's perfect. To them, the event goes off. It's great. Obviously, if the lights fall on the stage or something, that's a different story. But you made the decisions, you did it, you move forward. At the end of the event or the wedding or whatever it is, everybody that was in attendance, they walk away and they're like, wow, that was really perfect. That was uplifting. It was everything that I needed to get from those speakers, from, the location, from everything. And it's because you made the imperfect decision, because no decision is 100%. You just went with your gut. So now we're going back. You trusted your gut. You made the imperfect decision. And now at the end of it, it doesn't matter because it ended up being amazing anyway. So put the blog out there, write the book, do the podcast, take up the sport, take up the instrument, whatever it is. Just make the imperfect decisions, because nothing is ever perfect and nothing will ever, ever, ever be 100%. Number 3 is get comfortable with imperfect decisions. We're going to move on to number 4. Here we go. Own your choices. This is a hard one again. See, I feel like all of these, they're hard, right? Because this is all things that you have to do for yourself. Other people can't do any of this for you. You need to take on the responsibility. You need to trust your gut. You need to be comfortable with imperfect decisions. You need to be the one that's decisive. You need to stop waiting for permission. But at the end of the day, that is actually what needs to happen. Nobody can do it for you. You have to rewire how you've been taught and what you think society wants from you. Because, I've had people say to me, oh, is that a good idea? Yeah. It might not be a good idea for them, or they might not agree with what I'm doing, but for me, it's a great idea. For me, it's the best choice for me. For me, it's what's helping me move forward in my life, and I'm going to set myself up for success because I know I can. And to be fair, their opinion of me is none of my business. So, number 4, own your choices, good or bad. A successful leader takes responsibility for their decisions. If it works, great. If it doesn't, own it. Learn from it and move on. A struggling leader blames circumstances, avoids accountability, or refuses to acknowledge when something isn't working. 100%. Listen, if something isn't working in your business, or just in your life as a whole, but we're going to talk about it in a business sense. If something isn't working in your business and you refuse to acknowledge it, even if people have actually brought it to your attention, or deep down in your gut, in your soul, you're like, okay, something's wrong. I don't know what it is. You do know what it is. You do 100%. You know what it is. So be accountable. Be accountable, and take the responsibility for the decisions that you made to get you to that point. If the decision you made was working, you wouldn't be refusing to acknowledge when it isn't. Does that make sense? What's a good example that I could give for this? Let's say you own a restaurant. We're going to use a restaurant, for example. Most restaurants have Wing Wednesday or something like that. But the problem is most restaurants have Wing Wednesday. And I'm actually going to use Original Joe's as an example from when I used to eat out a lot, which we don't anymore due to I just can't eat most of the stuff on the menu. So most places have Wing Wednesday. And it works and it's great, but you can go to most places on a Wednesday night. You can get wings. It's mid-busy. You're competing with everybody. So Original Joe's actually has wing night on Tuesday. Anytime we have ever gone for wings on a Tuesday night, it is packed. Most of the time it's actually lined up to get in. This was a great decision on their part, because instead of competing with everybody on a Wednesday, let's move it to a Tuesday and then we can do something else on Wednesday. I'm pretty sure, I don't know the statistics, I don't know how much they bring in, I don't know. I just know from being there on a Tuesday, this is a great decision because it's smart, it's thought out, it's well managed, and it's different than everybody else. So they're owning their choice. This is a good choice, a bad choice. I have made this choice in my business. Bad choice. So when I owned my flower shop, lots of struggles come when you're an entrepreneur. You do things that at the end of it, you're like, oh my goodness, why did I do that? Why did I say I was going to do that? All of the other things. When I owned the shop, there was a couple of times that I had promised to show up and do something. Wouldn't really make that much money off of it, but I felt like I needed to do it. It ended up making it that I was burnt out by the end of it, and I lost money by the end of it, and it was a bad decision. But I actually had to own that and then go for it, and it was a learning process because moving forward, I'm like, okay, well, I can't do that. It's not going to work. Even though the organization that I was doing it for thought it was amazing and they thought it was great, it was a bad decision for me business-wise. So you just need to really recognize what works for you and what doesn't work for you. Number 4, own your choices, good or bad. We're gonna dive into number 5. I love this one. I've tried to live by this for a really, really long time. I'm grateful because my husband always thinks big, and his friends are big thinkers, and I have a few friends that are as well. Definitely have business associates that are. Number 5, surround yourself with people who think bigger. Your environment affects your decision making. If you're around people who hesitate, overthink, or play small, it'll rub off on you. If you're surrounded by bold, forward-thinking leaders, you'll naturally start making faster, more confident decisions, so choose wisely. This one is really, really important. As a business owner, when I owned the brick and mortar, you have to be very careful about the people that you choose to talk to and hang out with and share things with. Because I'll be 100% honest with you, a lot of the other entrepreneurs don't actually want to see you succeed. And the reason is because they're struggling to succeed and they see you as competition. Obviously, there's competition out there, but I always tried very hard, and I still do. I always try very hard to celebrate people's wins. So I'll give you an example. I had this very lovely lady that worked for me. She was amazing. She actually taught me so much. She worked for me for a year, and then she ended up getting pregnant. So she went on maternity leave, and then she came in with the baby. I think the baby was like 7 months old or something like that. And she came in and told me she wouldn't be returning because she had decided that she was going to open her own shop. And I remember thinking at first, I was like, oh, this sucks. I told her, I'm very excited for you. That's amazing. At the end of the day, I knew she was going to open one anyway because she was very forward thinking. And it was funny because when I would tell other people in the industry that she was opening up her own shop, that she wasn't returning, this is why I was looking for staff, because, you know, everybody always has to know what's going on. I remember people saying to me, oh, are you upset? Like, are you mad? And I'm like, no, not at all. Why? Why would I be upset that somebody wants to further their career and be an entrepreneur and do something for themselves? That's wild. That's crazy talk. I was actually her very first customer. So the day that she had her grand opening, I went. I still owned my shop at the time, but I went. I didn't buy flowers because that would be weird. But I went and I bought a candle, and it was lovely. And I had the snacks, and I seen her family, and I congratulated her. And I actually send a lot of my old customers to her if they ask me where to go. You just need to make sure that you're surrounding yourself with the people that lift you up. I have another ex-employee. She's kind of doing the same thing right now. I went for coffee with her and went and checked out the new location with her. You know, just so proud of her. Another ex-employee, obviously they're all ex-employees. Another ex-employee of mine, she was actually my full-time. She was my shop ride or die. I loved her. I loved all of them, but she had been with me from the beginning, and ever since she had started with me, she always wanted to be a personal trainer and go back to school and go into business for herself and everything. And I just found out that that's actually what she did after she left working for me. So I just want everybody to take a look around in their circle and see who actually thinks bigger, who actually wants you to do well in life. Do they overthink? Do they say, oh yeah, well maybe, or maybe it's, that friend that's been at the job for a million years and they hate their job and they hate their life, but they won't ever leave, and they overthink it and they hesitate and they don't want to. And if you hang out with people that are like this, it's going to rub off on you, because you're like, no, I don't think that I'm worthy of that, or no, I shouldn't move forward with that because that's not what society thinks I should be doing, or my family thinks I should be doing, or my friends think I should be doing. And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what any of them think you should be doing. It's what you think you should be doing. Make sure you surround yourself with bold, forward-thinking leaders. 100,000%. You will naturally start making faster, more confident decisions. So make sure you choose wisely the people you decide to spend your time with, because your time is very, very valuable. So we're going to recap on all of these really quick. Number 5, surround yourself with people who think bigger. These are the things that separate a successful leader from a struggling leader. If you implement all 5 of these, even if you were to just try it for 30 days, see what happens if you were just to implement these 5 things. Well, technically it's one thing. It's just 5 tips for becoming that one thing. So we're going to do a recap right now. What separates a successful leader from a struggling leader? The number 1 leadership skill, decisiveness. The 5 key tips for becoming a decisive leader. Number 1, stop waiting for permission. Number 2, trust your gut. Number 3, get comfortable with imperfect decisions. Number 4, own your choices, good or bad. And number 5, surround yourself with people who think bigger. I hope this brings some light to what you might have going on, or maybe not. Maybe you're doing all of this and you just like listening to me talk about it. Either way, I'm very grateful that you decided to tune in and spend your time with me. And I really hope that you enjoyed this episode. I look forward to talking with you guys very, very soon. Have a great day, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Fearless with Mary podcast. I appreciate you being here. If you love this episode, make sure you hit the subscribe button so you never miss an update. And if you're ready to take things to the next level with one-on-one mentoring, head on over to my website at www.fearlesswithmarytibbetts.ca to learn more. Let's get you moving towards big, fearless action. See you next time.